in Israel, in the lower Galilee, I guess, on the Galilee, let's just say that. The Bible doesn't say lower and upper Galilee, 28th of July, and it's 10:26 in the morning. So I got a little bit of a late start, but I was working on what I'm gonna say. So I was busy for a while. So it's 28th of July already. Wow, Friday. Yom Shishi, 6th day of the week, 10:27 in the morning. Wow. And weather today up here where I am is going to be bad. Let's look at, not that bad actually. It let's take, it may hit 100. I think that's, it may not. Nah, it'll be probably 100. It could hit 101. And it's 91 now. And I got the little kids in, dogs, the barkers, and it'll be 70. Oh, come on, who did that? One of you characters did that. Okay, and it'll be 75 tonight as the low, but that's going to be overnight. So in the evening it'll be in the low 80s, which is stifling out there. It's terrible. The weather is terrible. Okay. Tomorrow it'll be a tiny bit cooler, maybe like 1 or 2 degrees. Sunday it'll be probably hot, mid to high 90s. There's no appreciable chance of rain in sight, and it looks like we'll get a little bit of a respite, but not much. What I mean is we'll be coming in probably 96, 97, maybe 98 degrees for some days next week. And like around Thursday the 3rd, we may get into below 95. But it looks like this heat wave for the, well, according to the weather, for the next 15 days or so, it's pretty much tapering off. But it's not tapering off to an amazing extent. It's coming down a few degrees. But, it's not, this time of year would not at all be unusual to have the highs in the 90s. And the lows should be down by, 7:30, 8 o'clock. You should be in the 70s or the 80s maybe, and the low 80. It's still hot. I've never seen weather like this, and this July worldwide is the hottest that their records reflect. That's taking into account everything around the world. Now, we've had some rough runs with the weather, but I mean, I think we were hitting 106, 107, 108, a few weeks ago, a week or two ago. It's been going on most of July. Now, I know we're coming down a few degrees into something pretty much more or less resembles normal. Now, we're almost into August. Now, August is typically the hottest month of the year in Israel. August is the month that many Israelis, if they can get away for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they have enough time on the job to get that kind of vacation. They go away on vacation. They'll go someplace where it's nowhere near as hot. Often in Europe, you got a small amount of people that I say are kind of crazy, and they go to countries that hate Jews, like Turkey, Egypt. Some will even go to Jordan. I don't know why they do that. I don't think it's got wisdom associated with it. I wouldn't do it. when these places become Israel, yeah, but not till then. I wouldn't go there. It's not a wise place to go, because the Muslims are in great abundance over there, and some, but not all Muslims, dislike us. Quite a few dislike Israel. You know. That's no secret. Exactly why they dislike Israel escapes me, but they do. Um, so a lot of Israelis will take off in a few days, and they try to get out of Israel for August, which is typically the worst month. But this year things aren't right, and I think July will probably prove to be the worst month of the year. But I don't know. Now, is the rest of the world going to have a break from this weather? I don't know. I don't check weather reports for around the world. I just do Israel, so I'm not sure. I have a feeling they're not going to get out from under the weather. And to me, it's a sign. The weather's a sign, and I covered that a lot yesterday. And we'll have to see what develops. But we've been having a lot of highs over 100. 101 to 103. That was pretty typical. And if we start getting highs of 96 or something like that, it's enough of a respite to feel the difference. And what I really would like to see happen is, and you could pray about this if you want, is that the temperatures drop off, quicker, like 6, 7 o'clock at night, it cools down. So at least we can go outside and not sweat and sit outside. I like to go out with my iPad and, read what's going on. I do a lot of updating for the Telegram and a little for the other sites, Twitter and stuff. Okay, so let's do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 There's no Messiah like Yeshua. I'm going to take a minute and do some spiritual warfare real quick, as I sense that something's going on against me. Feeling some relief. I know who's doing this. And one thing, when you get involved in the spiritual warfare battles, you always are going to win if you don't go in the flesh and you cling to the spiritual warfare. And don't get panicky about it if they try to counter you, because it's not going to really work. Okay, let's do a little news real quick. Apparently, Russian and Chinese planes violated Japan's airspace yesterday as a provocation, I'm sure. U.S. has given $330 million in military aid to Taiwan today. So now America is shoveling money into Taiwan and Ukraine. Okay, let's take a look at any prayer requests we got. Prayer request for AP Alpha Papa. AP Alpha Papa. The prayer request is to make work tolerable and, if appropriate, find another job. So the prayer request for AP Alpha Papa is to make work comfortably tolerable, and if the Lord sees fit, to find a new, better job for AP Alpha Papa. Pray for me. Pray that my mind works clearly and correctly. There's people trying to do an attack on me. So pray that the attack doesn't work, please, and that I get my mind working clearly. Thank you. Also pray against those doing the attack. So I feel it's an attack because it came out of nowhere. All right, let's take a look at the live stream. The heat in America is straining their grid in some states. So they're having it bad. So this month is the worst recorded heat that they ever had these days. It's bad, and it's taking place in numerous countries at the same time. It's not like we're looking at, oh, Argentina's getting blasted with heat, or, China is, or it's happening like in many, many, many places around the world. It's profound. This appears to be the worst recorded heat that they have on record. Now, they haven't kept records that long, Maybe they got records back, in some countries through the 1800s or something, but they don't have records from 1200, 1300, I don't believe it, But it's a serious heat wave, and it's been very, very long. Very, very long heat wave. And we covered that yesterday. Take a look at the chat. Let's see what be going on. I'll get my email up in a moment. There's a concerted spiritual warfare attack going on against me. I'm aware of it now. It's been going on a couple hours this morning. And don't lose. Okay, I pinned offering information up at the top of the chat for the GoFundMe campaign. In the description box under the video, you can go there, and we have offering for Patreon and GoFundMe, both places, but I just put one up here. And I also have my email address in the body of the chat. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at the end, israelgiving7@gmail.com. And we've been having somebody come in here and clean the chat out during the live stream. So be aware of that. I don't know, it's been happening a lot. I don't know who is doing it or what. I have a feeling they're doing it to a lot of people, and I do not think it's coming from YouTube. Occasionally somebody gets a piece of software that they could harass people with, and I think somehow they can erase the stuff in the chat, but they can't get the message I pin up at the top and stuff like that. It's a minor harassment, but a harassment. Okay. So, let's get back to where I was. This is coming through labeled urgency. China and Russia has started joint maritime patrols in the Pacific Ocean. Combat ships of the Russian Navy and the PLA, People's Liberation Army, I guess, China. The PLA Navy, China Navy, have begun to carry out the tasks of the Third Joint Maritime Patrol in the Pacific Ocean. During the patrol, the aircraft of the Naval Aviation Pacific Fleet, blah, 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 will interact with cruise or surface ships. So they're trying to play their games of, portraying themselves as a super powerful country and, that's going to be a problem. It's going to scare people. China's deploying forces because a storm is coming, a typhoon called Suri, and it's getting people a little concerned what they're truly up to. Japan's worried about the threat coming from North Korea. Well, North Korea is the type of country that will lead their military into near certain high casualties to conquer an objective. Have the Americans done that in the past? Yeah. 58% of Israelis think a civil war could happen, and soon 38% are convinced a civil war could not happen. 4% are undecided. So I wouldn't pay much attention to that. Do I think they'll have a civil war here? No, I don't think so. Not where they take sides and try to destroy each other. The government gets cut off. That's what happens. And you could read about that in Ezekiel 34. France is starting to get active in the Pacific, so they're getting the idea that they've got to, deal with NATO and be on NATO's side, so they're starting to get active. They're actually performing the right way in terms of that. North Korea, during a military parade, was displaying copycat or clones of the American MQ-9 Reaper and the RQ-4B Global Hawk drones or UAVs. Italy had 8-inch pieces of hail last week. We just got the news on that. An 8-inch piece of hail is really big. I mean, what point would it be where a piece of hail breaks through the roofs of the house? I don't know. 12, 15, 18 inches. I have no idea. Maybe it would take 3 feet. I don't know. If you had, a house with a hard roof with some sort of, tiles that were pretty durable, I would say you have to be up there with the hail. Probably the weight of the hail would probably have to be at least 25 pounds, maybe 50, I don't know. It would be a lot. We could get there. I mean, we could have 100-pound pieces of hail, and I think that it didn't go through the roof into the house, which it may not. It would definitely be cracking the tiles on the roof and damaging them, that's for sure. So if you had a lot of cracked tile and pieces and then hail kept coming down like that, then it may start penetrating, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, if you had a 300-pound piece of hail, it would be pretty easy to get it to go through the roof, but with little things that weigh a pound or 2 or 3 or 4, It's going to take a lot. Now, car windows break from hail, that's not hard to do. House windows would break from hail too, but the hail would have to be coming down at an angle to hit the window, with the cars, the windows that get broken by hail are the front and rear windscreens. The vertical side windows normally don't get broken. The IDF intelligence division warns Netanyahu of historic weakness seen by Iran and Hezbollah. That's because a lot of soldiers are saying they don't want to report for reserve duty, but they probably would in an emergency. I'm assumptive. They're saying that the Mideast militaries side with the protesters and become the People's Army. Now, this is not specific to Israel. Uh, there's people in Israel that think that because there's so many soldiers that don't want to participate in Shmuck and Yahu's government, that the military is not in good shape. Our military readiness is weak right now. Oh, is that true or not? I don't know. I mean, there's two sides. One side will say it is, the other side will say it isn't. I'm not sure. And I don't know any high-ranking military people like brigadier colonels or generals that would probably have access to this information, which would be speculative anyway. Here's a headline I'm reading in Israel. It says, analysis. In a perfect storm of deceit and denial, Netanyahu's lies start to collide. Yeah, this is true. He's playing ball with the Shas Party and United Torah Judaism, two ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties that run in politics. And then he turns around and asks Benny Gantz to join him in his coalition. And Benny Gantz is basically secular, I guess, more so than anything else, you know. And I don't think Benny Gantz has given him a firm no, but Netanyahu will play Benny Gantz like a fiddle and just chew him up and spit him out. He probably thinks, because Benny Gantz could actually muster 30 votes, which is roughly about double what Shas and United Torah Judaism bring him. And there's so much trouble to keep happy, and they're so nasty about hammering away at, we want this, we want this, we want this. So I think it would be a breath of fresh air for him to get rid of United Torah Judaism and Shas Party and substitute in Benny Gantz, and it would propel him much further. Actually, Benny Gantz could possibly bring as many votes as Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, United Torah Judaism, and the Shas Party together, which is about 30 votes. So now, if Benny Gantz was smart, he'd say, yeah, I'll be prime minister for the first 2 years, then you can have it. And Netanyahu will laugh in his face and says, no, I get it first, you know. The one that gets it first gets it. The one that's supposed to get it after 2 years rarely ever gets it. It happens, but not often. Netanyahu could break the coalition up just to avoid giving it to him. Because once you give it to him and he does a good job, well, then the people don't want to keep him. Do I think Benny Gantz can do a good job? No, I don't think so. He's the general. He doesn't really belong there. they're trying to get through an LGBTQ adoption law, and they're having trouble getting that through. They're saying Israel may be divided. It's been divided in the past, 10 tribes into 2 tribes, Israel and Judah. Well, let's see what the shekel's doing. I checked earlier, but it's probably moving around. The shekel is weakening, but not significant. We'll run it up against the dollar. And it's 3.72, which is not a really major difference, but it's gone up a little bit. When I see it hit 3.9, I would say that you got a real significant thing. There is some unusual fluctuations in the foreign currencies that I'll point them out here. The British pound is trading at basically 1 pound is worth $1.28 US. And that's a very strong British pound. But when we look at the euro, that's not what we see. So that's a phenomenon. The euro is going at 109. And that's not great numbers for the euro. The Iranians and Syria and Hezbollah and Gaza would likely be viewing Israel as quite weak right now, and they may try to take a poke at us militarily. It's a fairly dangerous move for them to try, so they're pretty hesitant about it. They're trying to see if it's going to get better or get worse. These people that are not reporting for reserve duty will show up if there's a real crisis. The military intelligence people of Israel have warned Netanyahu 4 times that the overhaul that he's doing in the government is harming the deterrent value of attacking Israel. They warned him 4 times. He doesn't care. Netanyahu will either get some laws passed that get him out of that remove the risk of him going to prison for his 3 active criminal cases. And if he can't get these laws done, he's probably intent on destroying the government. And that would cause chaos in Israel, and then there would be no criminal cases active against him. He's that sick, believe me. I don't know why Benny Gantz is not moving against him. Benny Gantz has supposedly got 30 votes, which is more than what Netanyahu can muster. And Benny Gantz gets along with Yair Lapid, who probably has 15, 16, 17 votes. So together with maybe Meret's party and Lieberman or something, they could muster up a coalition of 61. Now, just because Benny Gantz can get 30 votes, that doesn't mean he's going to have 61. That's what he needs to win. And I don't know who he's going to get. Likud's not going to go for him. I don't know if he's going to try to get votes from the Arabs. He could. But then he'll probably lose other votes. It's confusing. Ben Gvir and Smotrich, well, I mean, Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid would gladly welcome him in, but they give him no commitment. They're not going to give him what they want. See, I was afraid this was going to happen. And Smotrich, the economics minister, is doing nothing for Israel. He's not addressing anything with the housing price crisis and all that. So it's fairly logical to assume he's been muzzled by politicians and or Netanyahu and so forth, but he's not doing anything. I don't understand why we have him as economic minister. He should be working on helping the poor people in the economy not be poor, and he's not doing that. So you're not going to see a deliverance of Israel coming from any politician or political party. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. It's going to be the judges, the two witnesses that break Israel free from all of this. These politicians are just part of the problem. The High Court might knock out the new reasonable law that they passed. That was controversial, that's causing a lot of protests. They might knock it out. And Netanyahu is acting weird. He's saying that, basically he's saying, I'll be a very unhappy camper if that happens, and he's going to do something, but he's not telling us what he's going to do. Basically what I see is this. Now I'm going to call it hard, okay? I'm playing hardball when I call it. Aryeh Deri is the Shas party. Aryeh Deri's been to jail either twice or 3 times, or convicted 2 or 3 times, has been in jail on one of these cases for something like 2.5 years, okay? And that was for corruption within the immigration department, and Netanyahu put him in charge of immigration. Ministry of the Interior, which is the agency that contains the immigration. And he was called out by the High Court because it's not reasonable. The guy's been to jail, been convicted 3 times, been to jail once or twice, I'm not sure. And he, on the last count, signed an agreement with the courts not to enter into the public life again, not to be a political or a politician. And they didn't give him any jail sentence, he just pled out. Well, then he got um, appointed politically as the head of the Ministry of the Interior, which is immigration, which is where he went into trouble. Got it? So the court told Netanyahu that due to the previous conviction and I believe reasonableness or something, they said that Aryeh Deri got to go. So Netanyahu took his time, a few days, and pulled Aryeh Deri out of office. The street talk is Aryeh Deri is still running the immigration department from an office in a non-government building. Using flunkies who listen to him. So he used to have about 7 or 8 votes. It's down a little bit. He might be down to 5 or 6 or something. Not a lot. Down a little. So Netanyahu has to bring Aryeh Deri back. I believe, my guess is, or he's going to lose the Shas party, which is probably down to 6 votes or 5 votes. It's not the end of the world, but Netanyahu's margin is only, I don't know, 2 or 3 votes, not much. So Aryeh Deri, I mean, he's down from where he was. He was higher at one point. So if Netanyahu can't put Aryeh Deri into position, I believe Aryeh Deri will pull out of the coalition. Will that cause United Torah Judaism to pull out of the coalition or not? I don't know. It's likely. But it's probably not necessary because Aryeh Deri's party, Shas, will pull enough votes that it would make it rather easy for Yair Lapid or Benny Gantz or both of them together, one as rotational prime minister. One goes in for 2 years and then the other takes over the next 2 years. And then they keep the coalition going, hopefully. So this is problematic right now because the High Court may strike down what they did by saying that, see, the Knesset, the Congress is the Knesset in Israel, it's a one house Congress with 120 votes. The court is basically saying Aryeh Deri, well, there's reasonable's law. It's designed to bring Aryeh Deri back. So they strike it down, they can't bring Aryeh Deri back, and Aryeh Deri may be frustrated and decide that he's going to pull from the coalition. But that's probably not likely because Gantz and Yair Lapid, perhaps sharing a new prime ministership or something, would be the shoe-in. They'll be left-wing in many things, but they'll be as right-wing as Netanyahu. They'll probably mimic Netanyahu militaristically. Perhaps they would be more aggressive against Gaza and Lebanon, if anything, but not less. So it's been submitted to the court, the High Court in Israel, and let's see what they say. They may strike down this reasonableness clause, but I don't think they're going to do anything until September. Let me see if anything's changed. Netanyahu says that if the bill is overturned, he plans to use a fresh law. That means pass a new law to reappoint the Shas party Aryeh Deri as a minister, when he would be the minister of the Department of the Interior, Mishrat Hapanim, which would control immigration. Netanyahu is saying, as a warning yesterday, that Israel would enter into uncharted territory if the Supreme Court strikes down his hardline coalition's highly contentious reasonableness law that passed amid widespread opposition and intense protests. What the heck? My phone's sitting in my pocket and it just goes off. How does that happen? It's the second or third time today it's done that. I need a new phone, but they're so expensive, gosh. So, so when Netanyahu says we're going into uncharted territory, I don't think he means we're going to mobilize as much of the military as I can and take over. What I think he means is they're going to submit another bill and try to pass it and see what the High Court does. Eventually, he may turn on the High Court and arrest him if he's got no other choice. Mind you, Netanyahu, lacking any other choices, will throw Israel into civil war or anything else he has to destroy the government of Israel, his own government, because his own government is going to put him in jail. And he's 73, 72, and he's facing up to 16 years in jail on 3 criminal counts. So that means he gets out of jail at 89. I don't think he likes that. So he will destroy Israel. And if the dumb people in Israel are allowed to do what they want, they'll help this idiot do it. Because if there's no structured government in Israel, he's not going to jail or getting convicted or anything else. And they're now going to work on giving various politicians control over judicial appointments. So he's going to try to stack the High Court in favor of what he wants, his cronies. The critics of Netanyahu say by removing the reasonableness standard, which is what he's done, it opens up the door to corruption and improper appointments of unqualified cronies to important positions. So he might appoint somebody as the minister of orange juice, and the salary is, 3 million shekels a year. There's no law against it. So the reasonableness doctrine is what the Supreme Court has. The problem with the Supreme Court and the reasonableness doctrine is it's not incorporated into law. Until now, Netanyahu is incorporated into law as a forbidden law. So there's a whole slew of legislation that Netanyahu intends to put into effect, which is going to pretty much make Netanyahu something like a dictator. And I would expect Netanyahu to start extending terms of office of the prime minister retroactively and stuff like that. He's not anybody that the country of Israel can trust. He was involved in giving Gaza back and everything else. He's not a good guy. Now, why Benny Gantz isn't running against Netanyahu and with uh, Yair Lapid is a mystery of the Western world. I don't quite understand. The polls have been for months showing him as a winner. Could be he's afraid of something. I don't know what. He might be afraid that Netanyahu's going to do a full coup, but I don't think so. I don't buy that. I don't know why he hasn't tried to vote of no confidence and take over. It's a mystery to me. He's afraid of something. There's fear and greed. The greed is, oh, let's take over, and the fear is, oh, something could go wrong. Biden is running some kind of deal with Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel. And I don't get this. It seems to me it's a bid or an effort on the part of Biden to pull Saudi Arabia away from Iran. For lack of better terminology, that's about it. And the Saudis are shopping for where the best deal is. They don't particularly want to hang their hat in Israel's corner. They're not comfortable. If Saudi Arabia does go and listen to Biden and begin relations with Israel, the UAE will follow suit because those two are like a tag team, They'll go where one goes, the other will go. Well, not really. Saudi Arabia leads and the UAE follows. They have more wealth, these two countries. The royal family's got more wealth than they know what to do with, okay? They got dozens and dozens of exotic cars. They got many jets. They got their own fleet. They got royal yachts that are, the size of a good-sized cruise ship that'll carry 1,500 passengers. And, they go with 10 people. And, come on. A big cruise ship could be 1,000, 1,100 feet long and maybe 140 feet wide. What do they need anything that big for? Unless they want to put go-kart racetracks on the yacht, or they want to have horse races on the yacht. And I'm being absurd. But they do have go-karts on the cruise ship. They got one. What is it? It's a Royal Caribbean Epic, maybe, or something. Or is it Celebrity? No, I think it's one of the Royal Caribbeans, the biggest one. I think it's about 220,000 tons, which is huge. A 90,000 ton boat is huge. Okay. I stopped cruising years ago, but the biggest I was ever on was 142 or 144,000 tons. And it took 3 days out of 7-day cruise to learn my way around the boat without getting lost. Now, my wife Rivka was on it with me, and I think she mastered it by the second day, but it took me until the fourth day. So we're on 4, 5, 6, and then you get off on 7, something like this. So it took about half the cruise for me to learn how to get around, to get oriented. It was a lot faster for her, but it wasn't that fast for me. Like you learn, there's certain things if you're an experienced cruiser, you pick up really quick. Remember, ships of Tarshish, many of you are going to be cruisers on the ships of Tarshish. coming to Israel with a stop off in the wilderness, because that's who I believe the ships of Tarshish are, and there's tons of them. So the main elevator bank is in the center of the ship, and that's going to bring you up to where the pool is, which is usually 2 or 3 decks down from the map. So if you're on a 17 deck high boat, you're probably going to be at deck 14 or 15, probably 14 for your Lido deck. They all call it a Lido deck, which is, well, they used to, they probably still do. That's where your pool is. That's the level of the swimming pool where you walk into the pool, right? Okay, they usually have 2 decks over the pool, 1 or 2, and you're not allowed to jump into the pool, okay? The pools are not that big and they're not that deep, seriously. They're like the size of a pool most people have in their backyard, or even smaller. They don't make them that big. I've never seen a cruise ship with an Olympic-sized pool. They don't do it. It's just too much weight. It goes sloshing around and stuff like that. And they put ocean salt water in the pool. And you might find the pool heated, but I don't think they heat them normally. It could be, I don't know. But when you got a bucket of water on a deck called the swimming pool, and it's out in the hot sun of the Caribbean or the Mediterranean in the summer, it's going to be pretty warm water. It's a big bucket of water. It's going to heat up in the sun, you know. A lot of these cruise ships, you got to bring flip-flops when you go to the water or the jacuzzi, because you get out, those teak wood decks get hot like blazes. The sun on a cruise ship in the ocean is very intense, and it reflects or bounces back off the water. So in 15 or 20 minutes, you can get yourself quite tan. I used to, my better days, do exercise walking. I didn't run usually. I exercise walked around the jogging track on the deck, and I would usually do it for, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes. I used to plot how much I wanted to cover and how many laps. I'd take my shirt off and leave it someplace, and that would be my sun exposure for the day. And that was enough to, you know, so I was out 30 to 45 minutes in the sun. So you're getting the sun from up above, and then you're getting it bouncing up off the water, reflecting back up at the boat, and that gets the tube. So the sun is 45 minutes of that sun is usually a lot. And I don't burn very easily because I got that kind of olive skin. So that would be plenty of sun for me for getting a tan and stuff like that. So anyway, how did I get distracted on this? So, it's pretty intense out there. So anyway, trying to put myself back where I was. So anyway, the sun could be very brutal out there. So laying down in the sun, once I did that and I fell asleep, it was the first day of the cruise. I'm not even sure we were moving yet, but anyway, maybe it was the second day, and I fell asleep on the boat for about 45 minutes or an hour or an hour and a half, something like that. And I woke up and I was miserable. I was burned. And I then got myself sick because I went back into the cabin and my skin was burning up. So the boat must have been moving. And I was standing under the air conditioning vent to cool my skin off. Anyway, then I got a cold from chilling myself, and so I learned my lesson, Now, I do see people that go up on these cruise ships and they'll lay out in the sun for hours. And I mean, I don't think that's a great idea, but if you want to go for it, And I guess they think they put a lot of suntan lotion on, and maybe if they're the type of people that go to the beach a lot and have the swimming pool or just lay out in the sun, and they start the cruise off with a moderate tan, they'll probably make it, you know. But so that's how I used to get my son, just do exercise walking on the deck of the boat uh, without a shirt on. And so anyway, ships of Tarshish are going to be bringing the people back to Israel, and then we'll stop in the wilderness, and they'll pass under the rod and enter into the bond of the covenant. Not all of them, many of them are going to be cut off. All the Israelites are going to be taken out of the countries that they're in for His name's sake, for God's name's sake. And they're not going to make it because they're going to be tested in the wilderness, and they're going to get cut off in the wilderness. Not all, but some. You see what these messages are coming in at here. Hold on a second. You usually don't get messages on Friday versus Shabbat. Well, that's nothing important. And let's see the other message I got. There's a guy running for the mayor of Tel Aviv, and he's saying his ticket is thousands of new apartments for young Tel Avivans with controlled rent. So he was quoting decent housing at a reasonable price, and this is just the beginning. So this is a smart politician if the other expert politicians are going to allow this to happen, which Netanyahu will fight against this tooth and nail. He'll want this guy crushed. He was quoting something like 4,500 shekels a month rent for multiple bedroom apartment in Tel Aviv, which today could be easily double and triple that, easily double for anything decent. So to put it into dollars, let me do that for you, because this is okay. So he's saying 4,500 shekels divided by, we'll say, 3.7. We'll make it into dollars. Would be $1,216. So he's talking roughly $1,200 a month rent for at least a 2 or a 3 bedroom apartment in Tel Aviv, which would be very attractive. In Tel Aviv, you could, and I would say the same thing in Jerusalem, you could live there without a car very comfortably. You could take buses, light rail, which is a streetcar. It's an electric thing that runs on ground level on tracks. So it's a streetcar, whatever you want to call it. It's not a cable car because there's no cable, but it's like that. It's on tracks. You got to go to a machine and buy your card before you get on. You can't pay the fare when you get on. I tried that once till I learned. But at all the bus stops, they got a machine you can buy. It'll work in English, Russian, Hebrew, Arabic, the machines. It's pretty easy. And you can put money in or credit cards or whatever. And I suppose you could buy a pass where you get unlimited travel for the week of the month or the day or whatever. So, anyway, those things are pretty are pretty good. They also have buses and stuff, so you don't really need a car. So for what you spend on a car and the parking and the insurance and the gas, which is expensive, and when you're sitting in traffic, gas gets real expensive. If you took an eight US dollars a gallon for diesel, so gas is going to burn up quick in the traffic. You could just do away with your car. So if you're getting rent that low, you could live affordably. So what this guy is now, I've heard many politicians promise low cost housing. Have I ever seen it get delivered? Never. Do these guys just want to lead the people astray? No, I don't think so. I think the Netanyahu people crush it. These guys don't want cheap housing. They don't want people coming to Israel. They're anti-Aliyah. They have a good healthcare industry selling a lot of products. They got great defense industry selling a lot of products. Missiles and guns and whatever, right? Radar, all kinds of stuff, spy equipment, you name it. So they got enough labor here in Israel to handle the need to work in said factories and make said products. And they just don't want to have a lot of new immigrants coming here and fulfilling prophecy. They're expats. Don't forget that, all of them. And they don't want to fulfill prophecy. That's why they're not getting rid of the Arabs. That's why when they conquered Jerusalem, they let the Arabs move back in. What kind of an absurd, idiot thing was that? In '67, they ran away, and these lousy generals got them to move back in and filled it up again. They don't want to see prophecy fulfilled. They're not serving Jehovah, they're serving the God of the dead. So that's the reality of it, So that's why they're not going to let this guy do this. He may get elected on that ticket, but I've seen it time in and time out. It fails. It doesn't work. Smotrich has been saying he's going to put 250,000 Jews from other countries, import them into Israel and put them in the West Bank. Well, the idiot behavior associated with this is the fact that there's many Israelis that want to leave Israel now, and that makes Netanyahu happy. That makes him very happy. Because he's going to get kudos with the powers of the air, the unclean spirits, for that. So, right now, a lot of them, because of this judicial overhaul and all that stuff, there's a lot of them looking to leave Israel. And they're looking at different countries, Portugal, Spain, for instance. If you could prove lineage, Hispanic lineage over there where your relatives were kicked out of the country, they'll give you a citizenship. Not easily done, but thousands of Israelis have done it, and then they get they become a citizen, and that citizenship makes them an EU citizen. So do they have to live in Spain or Portugal? No. Maybe they have to stay there a year or two to get their citizenship all confirmed. And then once they've got their EU ID card and their passport, they can go live anywhere in the EU. And they typically are probably not going to live in Spain or Portugal, although they might. But a lot of them like living in Germany. There's some 10,000 Israelis living in Germany. Germany is a rough economy to live in, very expensive. And it's a very modern economy, and it's a lot of people like living there. And nobody's going around putting the Jews in camps or ovens or anything like that. So they go there. They go to England. There's a lot in England. A lot of Israelis pick up enough English here, they can get off the plane functional in the UK. France, I don't think is that popular of a place to go. They go some to the Nordic countries. They go all over Europe, all over the EU, if they can get papers and go there. So if they could get Germany, you could get papers from Poland, not Poland, Spain, Portugal, Germany, and I think one or two others. They can pick up papers easily from relatives that used to live there that got, discriminated against, and they can move to these countries without a lot of difficulty. They can get an EU citizenship, and that gives them the right to live anywhere in the European Union. And they get a European Union passport, which is much easier for them to travel to America on than an Israeli passport. But there's not a big difference. Actually, that's not a correct statement. They can go to apply at American Embassy and they can get a 10-year visa, which allows them to stay in America up to 180 days at a year. They could stay straight for 6 months, is my understanding. Then they got to get out. If they don't get out, they're in big trouble. Oh, I mean, if they overstay 3 or 4 days, they'll get a fine and a slap on the, But I mean, if they overstay 35 days or something like that, they'd probably get yanked. Or they may say, okay, you're a wise guy, you overstayed, now you can't come back for a year and a half or for 2 years or something like that, or a year or whatever, If they overstayed, they're 9, 10 months, they'd probably just cancel it. Sometimes they'll not only cancel it, they'll also tell you you can't come back for 5 years. So most of the people don't mess with it. Now, when you go to the EU with an Israeli passport and you get a visa, they let you go for 90 days. Then you have to leave for 90 days. Then you can come back for another 90 days. So you do get 6 months with an Israeli passport in the EU, but only 3 months at a time. So they don't want you getting comfortable, okay? There used to be permanent residency and residency programs in Europe, and they deteriorated and fell apart. They don't really give you much of anything. They don't have a good path for citizenship. It's just not readily going to happen. It's a tough place to get a citizenship with, but if you've got this, like if your parents or grandparents even were killed by the Nazis, they allow the descendants of these people to get German passports rather easily. Even if your parents just got into one of the camps and lived, they give the descendants citizenship. I think it's just one generation. It might be 2, but I think it's 1. So years ago, we're talking over 30 years ago, 40 years ago, a lot of people from Israel whose parents were affected by the World War II concentration camps, the children of the parents picked up citizenship for Germany. So they like doing that because they grew up with a lot of fear, because they're afraid Israel may no longer be a country one day, or years ago they were afraid of that. Many are still afraid of that. And they felt pretty comfortable with the European passport as a backup, as a citizen, So, a lot of them, when they left Israel, they leave on an Israeli passport, and because they had an EU passport, I think they're supposed to use it, so when they showed up in Europe, they gave them the EU passport, and they got in based on the EU passport, which means they don't have to leave. They could stay there for 15 years, So there's now a renewed interest in getting these passports. The UK is not handing them out. Germany, if you can prove from the war, you got lineage there, and Portugal, and Spain, and I'm not sure who else is doing it. I think that maybe one other country. Then that's free. You just got to go over there and prove it to them, and they're the ones that are the final judge of whether or not you're eligible. But thousands and thousands of Israelis have done this. Next would come economic citizenships for those that have money, where they invest a certain amount of money in some country and then they get a citizenship over time. But that's, usually going to be, for anything decent, like $250,000 to a $500,000 investment for 5 years. Now, generally these investments actually pan out and pay interest and you recover your money. That has nothing to do on lineage. You don't have to prove anything. All you got to do is show up and say you got the money, So that's economic passports. And those, some of them are $1 million, $3 million investment, stuff like that. They got all different levels of it, Some Caribbean island countries do this, but passport is kind of limited, One thing with the world of international passports is if you come in with an American passport, a Swiss passport, French or UK or a big country to some of these lesser countries, they're not going to throw you out. But if you come and show up perfectly lawfully in full compliance and have a passport from a small country like Portugal, and you show up in another country that's a small country, they may send you home. What are you going to do? Sue them? You can't sue them. They'll just say, well, we don't think you're going to we don't think you're the type of person that's going to come here and stay 2 weeks and leave. We think you're going to stay here and violate the terms of your visa, so we're just kicking you out. You don't ever get out of the airport. You're stuck in the airport, you get on a plane and you get out of there. If they have to pay to ship you back, they'll pay to ship you back, and stuff like that. This happens. People don't know that. Especially Americans. You're traveling on an American passport, the chances of them ever doing that to you are minuscule. Probably never happen, be tiny. But if you were traveling on a passport from, let's say, Nassau or Jamaica, then they do it to you. Or if you're traveling on a passport from, I think some other places, Uruguay or something, they just say they don't want you, They don't care about relations with these little countries that don't have any clout, So there's a lot of Israelis now, depending on who you talk to, it hovers around half that are thinking of leaving Israel because of the breaking up of the government. They're getting scared because they are afraid that the lovely neighbors that we have, particularly Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Gaza, you could add in Yemen and Iran and Iraq, may turn against Israel, which I'm quite certain they will. It's in the Bible. So they don't really want to be in the military for this, and they just want to get out of Dodge. Now, there's many in Israel that have these passports for many, many years and keep renewing them. I knew a couple many years ago, they had 7 passports because the guy had a few passports from the parents' lineage and the wife did, and they had Israeli passports, and then they were telling me how expensive it was to renew these passports with all the children. But there's a lot of people that live in Israel that have a second passport. They have American, they have French, Great Britain, Australian, Canadian, Italy, Russia, which isn't a good passport. It varies, they got different passports. South American countries got people with passports from Mexico, from Argentina, a lot of people from Argentina. And they could go travel around on these passports. So anyway, they're getting scared that Israel could divide up and it could cause our enemies to attack us and hurt us, and if we're in a weakened condition, they might prevail. That's how these people are thinking. Not that I'm telling you that's going to happen. I'm telling you the opposite. It won't happen, but they could think that. Okay? And this is a bad thing. So Netanyahu, what's his thinking on this? His thinking is he wants to scare the daylights out of the court system by threatening to destroy Israel. Okay? To get them to leave him alone. And he'll throw the whole country under the bus. Why? Because it's most unlikely he's ever going to spend a day in jail if he does that. Because the system will fall apart. Now this is his thinking, not God's plan. This is what he is thinking he'll do. He's a bad piece of garbage, and he's in the process of doing it. And to keep his coalition together, he's being blackmailed by, not really blackmailed, but severely pressured by Ben-Gvir and Smotrich to give them what they want, or they'll pull out of the coalition, and then he is in a bad way. He'll be acting prime minister, which severely limits his power. He won't be able to do anything like judicial reform or anything like that. And the court will probably move on him rapidly to push his trial date up and get rid of him. Now comes the two ultra-Orthodox parties, and they're threatening him too. So they're extorting him, and he's going along with it. He doesn't know what else to do. And I think the Attorney General and the court are moderately afraid of him because they don't know what he's going to do. He might put them under house arrest. He might say what they did was treason. They're trying to overthrow the democracy by usurping their power and authority on the Knesset and stuff like that. So they're afraid of him. But as they're watching him weaken, and he is weakening, they seem to be taking a stand against him. We gotta see. But the High Court's not going to be hearing this matter until September or October. So it's the laws on the books now, and they can start using it. And basically, they'll try to put Aryeh Deri back in office. So it's a real mess, and how it ends yet, we don't know. But my opinion of how it's going to end is Ezekiel 34. The religious people in the government and the government will be cut off. Kaput, goodbye, adios, down the road, see you later, or never again. It's more like it. and then the two witnesses step in as the judges, and that's how I see it ends. All this could happen within this next 6 months of this biblical year, or it may roll into the next year. I don't know. The stage is being set for the fight in the Pacific and Europe and NATO versus Russia. In the Pacific, it would be China and North Korea against South Korea and Japan, Guam, Australia, Philippines, and of course, most importantly, Taiwan. It would be against them as well. So this is serious stuff, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better with these wars. It looks like it just gets worse all the time. But the Lord hasn't seen fit to make it break out yet, but it will, I think. When, what day, I don't know. It could go another 6, 8 months. It could go another 6 or 8 hours. I don't know when it's going to break out. It looks like China has a sense of urgency. It looks like Russia's afraid. It's a mess. Netanyahu's really made a big mess. He views this as his own personal business, the country. And it's like his country. He's a narcissistic psychopath, and in my opinion. And he operates like it's his country, so he's just doing what he wants with it. If I'm going to be harassed by these peons and they want to, put me in jail, I'll wreck the whole country of Israel before that happens. So why is Gantz and Yair Lapid not running? That's $1 million question. They're afraid of him? Maybe. Hi. This is my girl. They have, I don't know, why aren't they running? Now we're hearing talk of Netanyahu asking Gantz to come over to a coalition with him. And what does that mean? Well, Gantz would probably come with Yair Lapid, but Gantz and Yair Lapid don't get along with Netanyahu. I don't know how this would ever work. Netanyahu will stab them in the back, and they should know that. Yair Lapid, I think, knows it. I'm not so sure Gantz believes Netanyahu is undoubtedly going to stab him in the back, but I'm certain of it. What does that do? It gets Netanyahu out from under Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. He throws them away. Best case today, there may be 11 or 12 votes. Okay? And he gets rid of United Torah Judaism and the Shas party, who were bugging him all the time for legislation. So he gets rid of them. And they're not 15 votes anymore. They're, 10 or 11 together, maybe not even 11. So he throws them away, and he gets Gantz with 30 votes, and Yair Lapid has in the teens, maybe 14, 16. So he picks up a pretty good coalition combined with his own people. He's going to make the 61 and have a majority and run that way. And he basically is left-leaning. he calls himself centrist, and he's probably really slightly left of center more than centrist. So he can get himself another coalition fairly immediately. I don't think he has to go to the polls. He could just pull this off. And Smotrich and Ben Gvir will just go back into the woodwork. They're not going to emerge anywhere. And they'll have very few votes. And then he runs with Likud, Yair Lapid, and Benny Gantz, which are all left-wingers. Netanyahu's a left-winger, but he's not an extreme left-winger like Yair Lapid is, so Benny Gantz appears to be thinking about it. What Benny Gantz is stupid enough to do is tell Netanyahu, okay, we'll do a coalition. You can be prime minister the first 2 years. Then after that, I want to be prime minister. I don't know what'll happen here. Gantz is gullible enough to go back with Netanyahu. Yair Lapid, I think, knows better, and he's not going to do it. So I don't think that's going to get legs and go anywhere. Benny Gantz needs Yair Lapid to run. The two got to run together, and they got to make a decision. One of them they're going to do a rotation on the prime ministership, I'm sure. One of them will get the first 2 years, and that's the only one that's probably ever going to be holding the office. And the second one, the last 2 years. This could happen. Netanyahu would love to do this because he has Ben Gvir and Smotrich tormenting him constantly, trying to do ultra right-wing things, which has gotten Biden mad at him. Oh, Biden did invite him over to the White House now, I think September, October, something like that. Not too far off. Don't remember, it was September or October. And he's still meeting with China in August. So America is trying to work a deal where Saudi Arabia makes peace with Israel. If you want to believe it's going to be real, go ahead. Be my guest. And in return for that, they want Netanyahu to kill it with judicial reform, and that's the most idiotic thing I ever heard of, because Netanyahu can't kill it because he'll go to jail. So they're asking Netanyahu for political alliances with Saudi Arabia, risk being removed from office, sent to jail for a number of years, and dying in prison, and all. It's a joke. So what are we going to see happen? You got me. You got me. There's a high risk of Hezbollah and Hamas and some forces in Syria deciding they want to attack Israel right now. That's a pretty high risk. It could happen. I don't think they'll do well. They don't understand that there's weapons we don't talk about. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't know nothing about surface-to-surface missiles that we have. Nothing. They don't know anything about our land-to-sea missiles, where you shoot a surface ship. They don't know anything about that. They don't know what we have. They don't know what kind of missiles our airplanes could utilize, air to air. They don't know a lot of things. And they take a lot of stuff for granted. And they're pretty stupid, and they're very assumptive that they could cause catastrophic damage to Israel. But Israel's not very assumptive either, right? I've heard a general, high-ranking generals say that we could put, Lebanon in the Dark Ages, starting in the morning by the afternoon. Do I think he's lying? Heck no. What could they do to us in the interim? I don't think they could do that much to us. Would we take missiles? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We got some pretty good missile defense systems that will run out of missiles after a while. But Israel's not going to let that happen. Remember, we got, with the F-35s, we're probably hovering close to 300 fighter planes that can bomb and shoot missiles. So we could send squadrons of 25 in rotation every 30 minutes. Okay? So you got 25 planes flying around all the time, dropping bombs and missiles. Every 30 minutes you have a different 25 come out there. So there's always 25 doing it. Basically, you just do it by the afternoon. What's left, isn't going to be much. Plus, we have bombers too. We're not that high on it, but we got bombers. Then, Gaza's not much of a threat. It's Lebanon, really. So then, we have mobile artillery and tanks on their border, shooting artillery and mortars all over the place, mostly artillery, from tanks and mobile artillery pieces, and they'll eventually roll in and go further and further. So it's not going to take us but a little bit of time to stop the missile threat. And then by the end of the first day, they're going to be in really, really, really bad shape. And they run around thinking they're going to take us out. Well, there's, a lot of pilots in the reserves have said they won't fight, and a lot of intelligence people in the reserves, but they're not going to not fight if the homeland is being attacked. They'll show up for that. What they're not going to do is help the military suppress the people to keep Netanyahu in power. That's what they mean. They're not going to sit there and say, oh, me and my family are going to sit home and we're going to barbecue some kebab while the Hezbollah comes in and cuts everybody's head off. They're not going to do that. Okay? Now, a lot of these people are going to be leaving Israel. If enough of them... You see, but Netanyahu is making points with, let's call them the powers of the air, for getting Jews to leave Israel. They're attaboy. But he's under a lot of tossed salad and whole enchilada activities right now. So I don't think they're giving him any attaboys. I don't think they're having any communication with him. So it's a real messy situation right now. And I think it's beginning to look like to witness time. That's what it's looking like to me. Things are not going well. For Netanyahu. China is going to give him an offer. Join BRICS. And if he joins BRICS, I doubt Iran will be able to war against us. It'll burn the bridges with America, but then Israel will be able to sell weapons to what could eventually be about 55 BRICS countries for the exchange for this other currency. So they're going to drop. Biden's not giving Netanyahu the kind of support he wants. Okay? And Biden's not saying, look, you could be a jailbird and a criminal and stuff like that, but we'll still be friends. So the situation is a lousy situation for Netanyahu and for Israel right now, but God's working this thing. Remember Ezekiel 34, the bad shepherds are going to get cut off. That's your rabbis and who are trying to seize political power. And it's like the rabbis are playing the Pope game. Shah's United Torah Judaism and the government as religious fanatics. What's different between that and the Pope running the country? Not much. They both serve the same God. Excuse me, y'all. I'm going to take a break for a minute and we'll do some Bible work. Whoops. Excuse me, kids, I need to get in. I ate breakfast before I did the broadcast today. That's not a good thing. That got me a little sluggish, but I was so starving. So my wife was in Jerusalem yesterday, and I didn't get much food. So then we had to change a flat tire this morning. And then I think she went out to get a little food in the local market because we don't have a spare tire. And then the lady that was cleaning her house came over here and her battery died yesterday. And that was another episode. But she had access to a second car, so she jump started them and she recovered from that. But I think the car has got a bad alternator and a battery as a result. Or maybe just a bad alternator, I don't know. So she'll have to dig into that. And I usually like to do the broadcast on an empty stomach. I'm more energized. But I was starving. Um, 1 minute. Junk. Okay. So I'll go usually a whole week. Maybe I'll eat once before the broadcast. And that's it. I try not to. Let's see what else is happening now. So, by the way, Netanyahu was playing what I would consider a very bad game with Biden, and that's playing him against the Chinese. Because, while Biden's an old geezer, the cabinet, let's call them, that Biden's advisors are not. And they're on top of their game, and they're going to make Netanyahu uncomfortable, ultimately. I think. There's been tensions between Kosovo and Serbia in northern Kosovo. Serbia's increased its military presence on the border, and there might be problems on border skirmishes. Well, so far nothing. Let's see. Putin has forgiven $23 billion in debt to African countries. Stop. Put the brakes on. Maybe these African countries don't have any way to pay Putin because the SWIFT system isn't working for Putin anymore. I'm just saying. Okay. Russia's also saying he's bringing grain over there to them for free. Again, the wire transfer system is probably not working for Putin. So he's looking for friends. But he's going after welfare friends. That's fair weather friends. Oh, you give me stuff for free, I'll be your buddy. That's not a good thing. Oh, there's an article I'm reading saying that data on air bases suggests Chinese invasion of Taiwan may not be imminent. From I don't know about that. No, I think they got a typo here. Then it goes on to say, China increased its number of hardened aircraft shelters. Yeah, they usually have a sloping runway that goes down under the ground, maybe 60 feet or something like that, which is going to protect from a lot of air attack weapons, bombs, missiles. This is too far underground. China has been proving its preparations for potential air war. In 2012, Taiwan had 306 more than China is 297 wide. I mean, it's written poorly. Missiles. Since then, China has built 380 more. America was just 15. What are they talking about? Aircraft, I guess. America has just 15 within 1,000 kilometers. That's like 600 miles, 620 miles at Taiwan, where the risk of attack is most active. All of the planes we have are in Okinawa, Japan. Yeah, America does not look at all like it's intending to do a lot to defend Taiwan other than give them weapons. Here's a boatload of weapons. Here's another boatload of weapons. You know, that they'll do. Friday morning, a typhoon fell in eastern China. Okay. That's nice. It happens from time to time. 24,000 soldiers of Ukraine were trained in received military training in centers in Germany and Poland. Yeah, we know all about that. China is getting hit with a Category 4 tropical cyclone with winds of 230 kilometers, which is about 130 miles an hour. That's reasonably serious. Let's not kid ourselves. When you get to 150, 160, people start dying like flies. But that's still serious. Thunderstorms expected over East Europe tomorrow with tornado front. Well, if they're getting the heat wave, the thunderstorms gotta bring it down. Yeah, things are weird right now, especially with this schmuck in Yahoo. What is he up to? You know, he's so scared and desperate. And a lot of Israelis know he's just trying to stay out of jail. They don't know what to do about him. And maybe the Attorney General and the Supreme Court will have enough guts to say he doesn't belong in office because he's using his position to mess up his criminal charges. They're making sure he doesn't get wound up in jail or convicted and stuff like that. So it's pretty bad what he's doing. But they're afraid of him, I believe. I don't think they know what he's capable of, and they don't want to find out. Oh, they did. Somebody did come in and clean out our chat again. Huh? Well, we'll put it back in. I don't think they rotate. They just come in once. Spiritual warfare, guys. Just pour it on whoever it is doing it, and they'll fall apart briefly. And let me get one. My chat is weird. What are they talking about? Oh, it's back. They don't get the pinned message down. Pretty ridiculous. Somebody got nothing better to do, but every time they do that, if you guys have time, take more aggressive spiritual warfare against anybody, just to give them a price to pay. We'll win. And pray that YouTube, whoever's doing this, gets to cut them off. Okay, you got some scriptures. And my notes got messed up. That's probably my Yeah, I got my notes back. Okay. All right. Modern day Assyria. There's an A in front of the Syria word. Assyria. It's not Syria. It's Assyria. Okay. Consists today of Iraq, which is in Greater Israel, Syria, which is Iraq and Syria are in part in Greater Israel, just the left or the west of the Euphrates River. Okay. Turkey, same thing. It's in Greater Israel, but just to the left of the Euphrates River. And Iran. And I don't see Iran in Greater Israel. I see Iran on the other side of the Persian Gulf, and I see Greater Israel hitting the southeastern side of the Persian Gulf or the eastern side of the Persian Gulf, and that's where it stops. So I see it as including Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE, or Dubai, or whatever you want to call it. Okay? So we'll read this, which we're going to go to Isaiah 31 for. Interesting. woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. Now, you have to understand that Netanyahu has for years used the Egyptians for help. He uses them to help negotiate with Hamas. He's going to Egypt for help. Got it? It's error. Why does he do this? Because the more error, the more sins on Israel. And he knows he's a curse on Israel, so he stays there. He stays in this mode of doing it. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. We shouldn't do that, yet he does it. And stay on horses and trust in the chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong. This is military, trusting in military. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel. Now, the Holy One of Israel is Kadosh, which is holy. The word is really unto, ayin lamed al, which is on. So it would be more like look on or on, and then it has a negative not, which is low, which is no. So they look no unto all, or towards, or upon. They look look on the Holy of Israel, the Holy One of Israel. You could translate the Holy One of Israel. Neither seek Jehovah. So it says they look not unto Holy One, and the word for that in Hebrew is Kadosh. Neither seek the Lord. Let me look at this in a better translation here. Go to Kyle and Delich. Kyle and Delich probably has this all relating to the past. Now I got the commentary. Where's the translation? Let me try this again. It's not useful. Woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help. It jumped on me, darn it. Hold on. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. That's Netanyahu. And his regime, his advisors and so forth, his consulare and blah, blah, blah. And rely upon horses and put their trust in chariots, that there were many of them, and in horsemen, that there is a powerful multitude of them. And do not look up to the Holy One of Israel. That's Netanyahu. And do not inquire for Jehovah. That's Netanyahu. And yet the Holy One of Israel could be Yeshua, could be Jehovah. And yet he also is wise. Thus, then he brings evil and sets not his words aside, and rises up against the house of miscreants, and against the help of evildoers. And Egypt is man and not God, and its horses flesh and not spirit. And when Jehovah stretches out his hand, the helper stumbles, and he that is helped falls, and they all perish together. The expression, them that go down, does not imply that the going down was taking place just then for the first time. It is the participle of qualification, just as God is called. I was getting off topic here. Okay. Not overly helpful. All right. No, they're not too on point here. Okay. But they look not to the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. That's just for now. Yet he also, it could have happened in the past too. Yet he also is wise and will bring evil and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers and against the help of them that work iniquity. So it's talking of Jehovah. He will, wait a minute, yet he also is wise and will bring evil and not call back the words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers, yes, and against the help of them that work lawlessness, yes. That leaves Netanyahu and his government in bad shape. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When Jehovah shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is holpen shall fall. What does holpen mean? Help. That means help, and helpeth means help. So, shall fall down, and they all shall fail together. For thus saith Jehovah, spoken unto me like as the lion and the young lion roaring on his prey when a multitude of shepherds is called forth against him. Will not be afraid of their voice. Nor abase himself for the noise of them, so shall Jehovah of armies come down to fight for Mount Zion and for the hill thereof. There you go. Now, when it says Jehovah of armies, it means Father God Jehovah, not the glory of God of Israel. As birds flying, so will Jehovah of armies defend Jerusalem. Defending also will he deliver, and passing over he will preserve it. That's where we're headed. Turn you unto him from whom the children of Israel have deeply revolted. There you go. For in that day every man shall cast away his idols, silver and his idols of silver, and his idols of gold, which your own hands have made unto you for a sin. It's a sin. Then shall the Assyrian fall with the sword. With the sword, and not of a mighty man, and the sword not of a mean man shall devour him. He shall flee from the sword, and his young men shall be discomfited. He shall pass over to his stronghold for fear, and his princes shall be afraid of the sign. The sign. This is the sign of the Son of Man on the clouds. The ensign means a sign. It also means it's a military rank, in some branches of the service below a lieutenant. But it's a sign here. It's not that. It's not a military rank. And its princes shall be afraid of the sign, miraculous sign, you could say, saith Jehovah, whose fire is in Sion, and whose furnace is in Jerusalem. Well, okay. All right. So there's not a bright future for Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. And as we know, Iran does pop up again in the Great Day of the Lord, but it's called, Persia, not Iran, so it could be a revival of the Persian Empire, not have anything to do with this little Iran we see today, or maybe not. But Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, to the west of the Euphrates River, become incorporated into Israel, Greater Israel. So Iran doesn't do very good. And let's take a look at Isaiah 48. That was Isaiah 31 we just did. Now we'll do Isaiah 48. Hear ye this, O house of Jacob, which would be Israel, which are called by the name of Israel. That's what I just said. And are come forth out of the waters of Judah, which swear by the name of Jehovah, and make mention which swear by the name of Jehovah, and make mention of the God of Israel, the Elohim Yisrael, God of Israel, but not in truth nor in righteousness. There you go. Modern day rabbinical synagogues and stuff like that. For they call themselves of the holy city, that be Jerusalem, and stay themselves upon the God of Israel. The Elohim Yisrael is saying. Well, does it say that? Yes. They stay themselves upon Elohim Yisrael, Jehovah of armies, Shem is his name. I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth. And I showed them, I did them suddenly, and they came to pass. Because I knew that thou art obstinate, and thy neck is an iron sinew, and thy brow brass. In other words, stiff-necked, speaking of Israel. I have even from the beginning declared it to thee before it came to pass. He does that. Now, I don't know, somebody once wrote that he time travels. Does he? I don't know. I don't think so. I think he just knows what's going to happen because he's in control. I showed it thee, lest thou should say, mine idol hath done them, and my graven image and my molten image hath commanded them. Thou hast heard, see all this, and will not you declare it? I have showed thee new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou didst not know them. That's interesting. You heard, you see all this, and you will not declare it. That's them today, the rabbis and stuff. I have showed thee new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou didst not know them. They don't know what's going on. They are created now and not from the beginning, even before the day when thou heardest them not, lest thou shouldst say, Behold, I knew them. Yea, thou heardest, thou heardest not, yea, thou knowest not, yea, from that time that thine ear was not open, for I knew that thou wouldst deal very treacherously, and was called a transgressor from the womb. Okay, a transgressor, the word is pasha, a rebellion, revolt, break the law. For my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise will I refrain for thee, that I cut thee not off. Now, he's going to take them in the next diaspora, the second captivity, the return from the other countries, and they're going to stop in the wilderness, and they're either going to pass under the rod and enter the bond of the covenant, or they're going to get cut off in the wilderness and not go to Israel. Because after this brief time in the wilderness is by no means going to be any 40 years that I could ever imagine. It's going to be very brief. They will, maybe weeks, months, few months, maybe just weeks, I don't know. Then they'll come into the land of Israel. It may just be days, I don't know. And for my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise will I refrain from thee, that I cut thee not off. So, for his name's sake, he doesn't kill them. He does, for his name's sake, he takes them out of all the countries they're in and reverses the captivity. But if they don't toe the mark in the wilderness before they come to Israel, they get cut off. That's from other scriptures. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. There's the furnace again. The furnace of affliction. What does affliction mean? 6040 is the Strong's number. Oni. Poverty, misery, affliction. There it is. That's how we live. For mine own sake, even for my own sake, will I do it. For how should my name be polluted, and I will not give my glory unto another. So, for his name's sake, he's delivering all of Israel, not because their behavior is so good. But the ones that resist are going to die in the wilderness. Hearken unto me, O Yaakov and Israel, my called. I am he, I am the first, I also am the last. So who's he calling? He's calling Jacob and Israel, all the 12 tribes, my call. He's saying, Ani, which is I or me, who, so he's saying, me who, Ani, Rishon, the first, and also Acharon, the following, or the behind, the last, you might say. So this is Yeshua talking, he's the first and the last. Or it could be Jehovah. My hand also hath laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand hath spanned the heavens. When I call unto them, they stand up together. All you assemble yourselves and hear, which among them hath declared I these things. Jehovah hath loved him, he will do his pleasure. What the heck? Oh gosh, wait a second, and then I hit the wrong. I lost my place, hold on. I hit the wrong button and the page moved. I'm in verse 9 here, I pick it up there. For my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise will I refrain from thee, that I cut thee not off. So he doesn't get rid of us, he corrects us. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. I guess we did this already. Hearken unto me, O Yaakov and Israel, my call. I am he, I am the first, also the last. There we are. My hand also hath laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand hath spanned the heavens. When I call unto them, they stand up together. All ye assemble yourselves and hear, which among them hath declared these things. Jehovah hath loved him, he will do his pleasure on Babel, and his arm shall be on the Chaldeans. Okay? Even I, have spoken, yea, I have called him, I have brought him, and he shall make I've called him, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. Okay, what does prosperous mean? Let's see what Strong's calls it. It has a meaning of economic prosperity. Be profitable. In other words, you're going to do good in business. He's going to be working for you, not against you. And he shall and if God be for you, who can be against you? So we're going to be extremely wealthy, more so than any other nation ever was. Okay, you got to understand that, more so, because we get a double portion. No other country ever got a double portion. I have spoken, yea, I have called him, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. That's Jehovah doing it. Come you near unto me, hear you this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. No, he doesn't. He shouts it from the rooftops. From the time that it was there, am I. And now, Adonai Jehovah, and Adonai Jehovah, and then it just says Ruach, hath sent me. So, there am I, and now Adonai Yehovah and his Spirit had sent me. I think it's Yeshua talking. Thus saith Yehovah, thy Redeemer, and that word is Gaal, the Holy One of Israel, Kadosh Israel. Then it says, Ani Yehovah Elohim, Yehovah your God, plural, which teacheth thee to profit, which leadeth thee to profit. So it's Jehovah that teaches us how to make money, and that's going to come by submission to Jehovah and doing things his way and submitting to the law. That's how that works. Then he teaches you, which leadeth thee by the way that thou shouldst go. So he takes you to the right way when you're submissive to the law and him, and that's the best thing for you, for people. Oh, that thou hast hearkened to my commandments, then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. Well, it'll get like that again. But if we only would have listened to him, none of this ever would have happened. Not only did they rebel, they killed his son. What an idiot. I mean, my gosh. You know? And that's why we're paying for it. Thy seed also, see, the fathers know that their children, great-grandchildren, and so forth are paying for this. And they're mourning over that. You know? Thy seed also had been thy seed also had been as the sand of the sea, of the offspring. Whoa. Thy seed, descendants, had been as the sand, that's numerous, and the offspring of thy bowels, that's your children, like the gravel thereof. His name should not have been cut off, nor destroyed from before me. See, but they did error. Go ye forth of Babel, get out of Babel. Flee you from the Chaldeans with a voice of singing. Flee from the Chaldeans, that's talking about getting out of the daughter of Babylon now. You got to watch the timing. It says, go ye forth of Babylon, let's get out of Babylon, free you from the Chaldeans, which is the daughter of Babylon now. With a voice of singing declare you, tell this, utter it even to the end of the earth, say ye, Jehovah hath redeemed his servants Jacob. This is for our day, not like the old day. And they thirsted not when he led them through the deserts. This is referencing the past. He caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them. That's the rock is Yeshua, the waters is the Holy Spirit. Out of the belly, it's a sign type over there, okay? For them, he clave the rock, broke it, also, and the waters gushed out. That's like when they stuck them in the, well, we'll just leave it there. There is no peace, saith Jehovah, unto the wicked. You see, this scripture can't be broken like all the other scriptures. They have no peace. They got Rolls Royces, jets, islands, mansions, harems, drugs, liquor, clothes, blah, blah, blah. No peace. Do they know or do they understand they have no peace? No, they don't. They don't. Are they blind? Yeah, they sit there and they think they got all this wealth and riches and they got it knocked. And we know what's going to happen to them when they kick. But they don't till they kick, and then they go, oh my gosh, look what I did. Let me go back and warn my brothers and sisters. No, it don't work that way. Now we're going to have the double portion. We're going to have the wealth and riches, but we're not going to get them wickedly. We're going to get them the right way, and we're going to have peace with it and joy and massive families. I mean, you're going to have kids like you don't believe, and if you're old, your body's going to be redone, and you're going to be reproducing. It doesn't matter if you're 89 years old; you'll be changed, and you'll be reproducing, and you'll have kids. And they're not going to grow up, and your girls aren't going to grow up and be on the back of a Harley with some sluggard with a gun in his pocket and a joint in his mouth, riding around, doing gang activity. You're not going to have any of that. All the kids are going to be correct. Yeah, soon. Is it years away? Maybe days away. Or it may be longer. I don't know. I'm not given. I'm at the point where I think I know the timing, but I'm not going to come out and declare it because I don't know for sure. There's some things that when I see them, I'll go declare them. You've got to remember, the daughter of Babylon goes down suddenly, and it's a very brief period of time. And the Zechariah 12 battle is a day. It's very fast. When things go, it's fast. Now, does that mean the NATO and Russia war is going to be fast? I doubt it. And the Pacific War with China and North Korea against South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, Australia, Guam, I don't think so. It's going to keep them out of our hair while here in Israel. And then the second Exodus will be starting. You've got to get out of America before the attack on America. Because once that attack starts, nobody gets out. And that attack happens suddenly and stuff. So you will get out, okay, on the ships of Tarshish. Some of you, which is probably how you're going to get out of America and North America. And probably even South America, because you got to get over the pond, the Atlantic. So the only thing I can come up with for the ships of Tarshish is the cruise ships. The military ships, are they going to survive? And how many people can they really carry? You got to have a massive crew. I don't think it's it. It could be, but I'm not counting on it. I think it's the passenger cruise lines, the container ships, the grain ships, the ships that hold liquids like, gasoline type stuff, No, there's very little room to hold people on those things. You can't go walk around with all the pneumatic pipes, you can't. There's no place for people. On the top of the ship, they build a 6-story building, typically, which from there they got all the offices and the living quarters and the recreation and everything, and all the guys stay in there, which might be 25, 30, 40 people, not that much. So there's gross inefficiency of that. Now, it could be on different ships that we're not aware of, but I think it would be the cruise ships. The biggest cruise ship in the world is the Royal Caribbean, and I think it's 7,000, almost 7,500, not quite, passengers, with about 1/3 of that as crew, 2,500. So let me explain to you, as far as, that's about 10,000 people on this boat. I think it comes in at about 250,000 tons. It's huge. It's probably about 1,100 feet long, and I'm guessing the width would probably be about 150. And it probably has about 17, 18 decks. And it has a whole slew of water slides, roller coasters, go-karts, ice skating ring, and rock climbing walls, and basketball courts, and zip lines, and golf simulators, and an arcade, and 15 or 20 restaurants, daycare for kids of different ages, and oh, I don't know what else. I don't know. It's loaded with stuff. Now, it holds 72 or 7,500. It's not quite 7,500 people, um, but that's in rather luxurious conditions. So I don't know what will happen when we're using it to bring the Israelites home. I don't know. But there's a lot of other ships that are going to be going. So with one cycle, we could probably get up to a good 400,000 or 500,000 people. It would go to the wilderness first, and then from the wilderness they would come to Israel, probably without a ship. Now there's also other boats that could be used, I think, ferry boats that have living accommodations on them, but then I suppose they're ocean capable because they do overnight trips. They do trips of 1 or 2, maybe even 2.5 days or something like that. So they're probably going through deep water, treacherous waters and stuff. So I don't know how many of those are. Probably a couple 100 or 200 around Europe, I guess. I don't know. That's what I assume is the ships at Tarshish, and it could include military vessels and things like that. I don't know, but I mean, an aircraft carrier, of which there's not that many in the whole world. Maybe there's 20, 25. You know, they could hold about 5,000 people, but you need these thousands of people there to control the boat, and then the living conditions are not conducive to old people, children, and families. It's not a good. And then people are going to come other ways. The nations will be carrying us here. They're going to have a rude awakening. They're going to see the power of God as reflected through the two witnesses, and they're going to get scared. And they're going to drop Satan like a hot potato. And battery problem caused the reconnect issue. So anyway, be excited. It's going to happen soon. And I'll keep you posted on what goes on in Israel, but that's really good stuff, okay? Netanyahu is his last flurry. He's the curse of Israel, and I hope he's the last one. And this goes into the two witnesses, and we may get an attack from our neighbors, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, even Jordan, but I don't think that immediately. The two witnesses, the existing democracy is going to be going bye-bye. It's going to get taken out. Then the judges are going to reign. And there's going to be all the signs and wonders. They're going to flow like they did with Yeshua. Healings, raising the dead, everything. Or you're going to see it all again. Well, you haven't seen it yet, but you'll see it soon. So be encouraged. Do your spiritual warfare. Pray, which is prayer warfare too sometimes, not always. And please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances. Keep the prayers coming for my wife's business. It seems to be working, a new business. It's this thing with the patches. If anybody's interested, you get a hold of me on email or something. And then they have pray for our animals and pets that they be happy, healthy, and whole, and don't run away. And pray for the peace of Yerushalayim, and keep praying for better videos. And I keep trying. So we're really in a great time right now. It's about ready for the breakout. Now, it might be a week, it might be a month, it might be 7, 8 months into the next year, I don't know. But it definitely still is enough time for the breakout for these events to happen in this year. We got about 6 months of this year left, and a lot of these things happen in that day, in a day, suddenly surprise. So it can happen pretty quick. I'm talking about Zechariah 12 attack, and I'm talking about Daughter of Babylon going down. I think the big war in Europe and the big war in the Pacific is going to be a reasonably long period of time, not a day. I don't think it's going to be a year. It may be a month or two. They're going to run out of equipment. They're going to be trying to pound the other guys so hard, each of them at the same time. They're going to eventually run out of weapons, I think. We'll see. Then after that, I think the survivors will beat their swords into plowshares, and that'll be the end of that. Well, let's see. I've covered all these things with you, so thank you for the prayers, and I'll keep you updated, and make sure you're subscribed, so if something happens suddenly, I can get out there with a live stream, you'll know about it. And things in Israel are getting tenser and tenser and tenser. A lot of tension right now. Okay, so I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this, and